It's exciting. We're going to get started with, let's see, Alexander and Katherine, and then Abigail, Benjamin, and Allison is going to wrap us up with her exciting presentation, which is super visual, which is fantastic. Yeah. So how about, let's start, since I think it's 10:02. I'm going to introduce Alexander and Katherine, and they've submitted bios, but then they have their presentations, of course. So Katherine, Perez, Nunez, and Alexander Nguyen are both majoring in interior architecture at UNCG. Katherine is a senior, while Alexander graduated in December 2020. Congratulations, Alexander.
Thank you.
Katherine has received the Undergraduate Research and Creativity Award for the fall of the 2020 semester. In 2020, Alexander won 2 prestigious scholarships, the Shining Star Award from the International Interior Design Association and the Leaders Commemorative Scholarship from the International Furnishing and Design Association, as well as the Portfolio Prize from the Interior Architecture Department. So these are accomplished, fantastic young people. I will let you guys begin.
Thank you. All right, just give it 1 second so we can share our screen. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. And my name is Alexander Nguyen, and this is my research partner, Katherine Perez Nunez. We are very excited to present our research on reimagining Main Street, North Carolina, designed for social distancing in downtown historic district. Now let's dive in.
Okay. So our paper focuses on how small towns throughout the state could respond to COVID's impact on their businesses and their historic downtown districts through design. The partnership that UNCG and North Carolina Main Street has provided us the opportunity as student fellows to develop an approach to COVID spaces in historic districts. And in order to do this, we conducted some literature research for the impact of the pandemic throughout the state, as well as some case study approach to different design projects.
In 1966, the demolition of the Pennsylvania train station in New York and the rampant federal development of the government led to the passing of the Historic Preservation Act got passed to protect the history properties. The Main Street program also established and has been focusing on downtown history and helping to revitalize the economy under the field of historic preservation. In the past, research on the effectiveness of the program highlights how every dollar invested, the business gained $26 in profit. The rehabilitated buildings also led to a net gain job annually, even during the periods of recessions. In March 2016, the Main Street program partnered with the Interior Architecture Department at UNCG to provide design assistance across 94 Main Street community in the state. So this work involving a mix of archival research, fieldwork documentation, and digital design work using a variety of design software program. And this is one of our most prominent projects. It shows that the UNCG student fellow who are the designer, and so how we analyze the existing condition, develop design, and final enhancement.
So our paper was really prompted when the North Carolina Main Street program released a new request form to help businesses recover from the pandemic's impact. And this form was just mainly outdoor spaces that would benefit the businesses, the surrounding spaces, and it was ADA compliant, and of course it fell under the guide of the social distancing guidelines. However, when we were trying to approach these space and designing, we noticed there was a lack in literature that would help us approach pandemic design in historic spaces. So from there, we did some research on the impact of COVID on different communities, and we found that some of the largest sectors hit were the restaurant, hospitality, and retails, with most of the closures from in this study in September, most of those were in the restaurant and retail. And they found a lot of changes to their business models, as we all know, and the job loss. So from there, we noticed that their main needs in these spaces were to increase their capacity and help with dining and recreational activities. So in approaching this, these outdoor projects aren't necessarily new. other towns have found ways to bring people into their downtown districts. The main struggle here was finding a way to accommodate this under the idea of the historic district, which has a lot of different guidelines when designing in these spaces and just making sure it's not obstructive to the space. And as Main Street Fellows, we were given the opportunity to provide some design assistance with North Carolina Main Street to different towns in how to build these projects. And the first of this nature was the Hole in Roughton, North Carolina, which was an empty lot. Some research done by our peer, Sanaya Lawson, found that the location is in the historic district of Roughton, and it's directly across from their courthouse. The original building had burned down in 1986, and then the lot was now being used for parking. And interesting enough, it also has an entrance to some underground shops that were used for people of color during the period of segregation. So that was something that we found while doing the archival research. And the town mainly wanted a space where the community could gather and have different events. Her proposal was a multi-use space with different dining, live performances, and just space for gathering. And from there, she worked on this with the idea of social distancing in terms of the pandemic. It has a 44-person capacity, but she also made sure to provide benches so that when the pandemic has passed, the town can repurpose the space and have a larger gathering in the space. As you can see in the image on the right, she provided different ways to access the space. So this deck allows people to socialize, but also allows them to gain entrance from the higher end of the street, while the paving pattern allows people to access it, people in wheelchair with disabilities to access it with ease. Sorry. And then she also provided a space for food trucks to access the space, since this location wasn't around a lot of restaurants. It was mainly institutional buildings. She tried to find a way that the whole Roughton community could come and improve their business.
Okay, now let's travel to Hendersonville. We have a brewery that received a private fund from the city to recover the capacity lost by expanding the dining area to outdoor. Okay, so the property is close to the boundary of Hendersonville Historic District. In the past 100 years, the fellow, which is me, found out that the building was used as a wood shop, blacksmith shop, auto garage repair shop, and then gradually a restaurant space. Thanks to the private fund, the property owner can set up a temporary outdoor dining parklet on the loading zone in front of the building. The dimension is 7 feet wide by 50 feet long. And then I propose a conceptual model that has 3 types of sittings. The first sitting type right here has 2 sets of regular table with 4 sitters that are ADA compliant. The second sitting type led the customer to lay back more comfortably with the sofa furnitures. And then the last one is more convenient with the bar setting. Then there was a few challenges to design, such as the toxic fume and the noises on the road, but I managed to provide planters to separate those things. Now let's moving on to the third design of the COVID time, which is an alleyway to rehabilitate in Albemarle, North Carolina. Okay, so alleyway is located in downtown district of Stanly County, and the neighboring buildings surrounding are commercial business such as the restaurant, bakery, special boutique shop, and gallery. In the 20th century, Bianca Jenkins, who is the designer of this project, found out that the alleyway was surrounded by the Opera House, Honeycutt Furnitures, Jim Davis Drug, and the Serum of Stars Jewelers. This serum is the oldest business that has been operating in Albemarle since 1908. The city of Albemarle requests to convert the alleyway to a pedestrian-only walkway because currently it's being occupied by parking and utilities. Okay, so Bianca Jenkins provide wonderful 3D design with the seating having 6 feet in between each other, overhung lighting, planters, sanitation station, and public art to support the adjacent business with an inviting outdoor atmosphere under the social distance standard from COVID-19.
Okay, And then from the examples that we've shown you and some other projects that we were able to work on, we extracted some design considerations that people should take into, they should consider in order to design for outdoor pandemic spaces. So one of the main things is to make it an inviting atmosphere, since a lot of the spaces that can be used for this tend to be alleyways, parklets, or empty lots, very unattractive spaces, finding ways to separate things like mechanical systems. As you noticed, many of the fellows provided planters for this because it's inexpensive, and just considering whether the town wants it to be temporary, so something quick, or whether they want it for long term. The nature of the historic district, since when doing archival research, you find what the district was about, just making sure that it's nothing intrusive, nothing too modern to the space. And then of course the public health lines and ADA guidelines to ensure that there's safety and accessibility for all. And then the materiality was one of the most important things. So making sure the materials can be easily cleaned, the furniture can be easily cleaned, but it's also very sustainable, durable for the outdoor use, and that is true to that historic era.
Okay, so our society is absolutely changed during COVID-19, but it doesn't mean that our historic district and landmarks are being forgotten. I'm sorry. These groundbreaking designs are a creative and visionary to respond that we can preserve the history while protecting our while protecting our health and mental well-beings. The next step is to consider long-term implementation to these spaces and study the effectiveness in helping businesses recover from COVID-19 impacts. And we would really want to express our gratitude to Travis Hicks, our advisor of this project, and the North Carolina Main Street and Rural Planning Center for allowing us to showcase the works, and many thanks to Sanaya Lawson, Bianca Jenkins for their wonderful design work, and thank you for our presentation. We are now open to questions. Hi, Benjamin, I see that you have questions. Oh, he was clapping.
I was just clapping. You all did a fantastic job. You did great.
Thank you, thank you.
So I've got a question. First of all, thank you so much, Alexander Nguyen and Katherine. That was fantastic. Can you tell me how you talked a little bit about the vision for the future, but I'm curious as to if you could talk some more about how that's going to change, right? Because we've adapted now to social distancing. You must have thought some about what that's going to look like going forward, and you've made these fantastic adaptations with an eye for the future, but could you talk a little bit more about the future?
In the future, we think that absolutely our societies change, and in the future, I think that what we are doing, these outdoor spaces, will now start being like served to in like the guideline of social distancing, because this is one of the pandemic we have had throughout our human history, and it won't be the last one. So we really wanted to have these have these public space to remain as a place to engage the community and also protect our health. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think like the point of the community is very big, because these spaces, people have been working towards them, but it's like the pandemic that's really pushing more towns to try to implement it, especially in smaller areas. So just finding ways that they can work together, it's something that's going to have a lasting impact in general.
Thank you for the questions.
Any other questions for these fantastic young people? Well, thank you so much. That was fantastic. Really, I mean, interesting and engaging and well presented, and I mean, just beautifully illustrated.
Thank you.